The only reason that I can see for myself, Michael, and indeed colleagues who were in the hall this morning from Stand Up to Racism then being evicted from the hall is because we support Zarah's calls for maximum member democracy. It's a stitch-up, it's worse than the Labour right, and it needs to be called out. An unelected clique of bureaucrats who have organised this event have decided, without any input from the thousands of members who have paid their own way to come up to a conference, to exclude people from this conference hall is an outrage. There shouldn't be Team Corbyn versus Team Sultana. There should be Team Your Party, or whatever it ends up being called, that is able to build and take the fight to Reform and Labour. It's never been a more urgently needed force in this country, and yet we have people here more intent on causing arguments among ourselves than actually trying to build something willing and able to take the fight to the threat that this country is facing. Councillor James Giles, Royal Borough of Kingston.
You are standing outside of the ACC conference hall. Can you tell me why?
I can. This morning I got informed that I would not be allowed to enter the Your Party venue. Not been expelled, unlike colleagues from the SWP were yesterday, but I'm one of a number of councillors who's today been denied entry into the hall.
And do you have any reason or knowledge of why that might be?
Well, the reason that was given to me in writing was that there was, and I quote, a private matter for which I was being investigated by the Information Commissioner's office. Now, it's so private that not even I know what it is. I've never been contacted by the Information Commissioner's office about anything in my life, Your Party or otherwise, and so it's certainly news to me. But I'm sorry to say, I'm not the only one. Councillor Michael Lavalette from Preston, also this morning getting told, you're not allowed in either. The reason given to him was that they had seen evidence that he was going to disrupt conference, and of course when that evidence was requested, none was forthcoming.
Can you tell me if this is, do you feel that this is factionalism at play?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that I can see for myself, Michael, and indeed colleagues who were in the hall this morning from Stand Up to Racism then being evicted from the hall is because we support Zarah's calls for maximum member democracy. There's no other reason that I can find as to why we would be denied entry into the hall. It's beyond outrageous, it's a stitch-up, it's worse than the Labour right, and it needs to be called out.
You say it was worse than the Labour right.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I think it is worse than the Labour right. You know, an unelected clique of bureaucrats who have organised this event have decided, without any input from the thousands of members who have paid their own way to come up to a conference, to exclude people from this conference hall is an outrage. You know, we're used to the Labour right stitching up a Labour conference, but this was meant to be a democratic, grassroots, inclusive movement that was meant to be more democratic than any party had ever had in British electoral history. And so the concept that an unelected clique are able to simply say at the click of the fingers on spurious grounds, you're not allowed into the venue, go away. You know, it's absolutely outrageous.
Have you been working for Zarah Sultana since July?
No, I've never taken a penny from Zarah.
No, but have you been working with her?
Oh, I've been working with her, yes, but not working for her.
The allegation from the other camp or certain people is that you are one of the many people who are behind the membership portal. Is that true?
No, I'm sorry to say that this is, as you put it earlier, factionalism. This is, if you like, evidence of the point I just made, that there is a witch hunt going on here against those who support Zarah's calls for maximum member democracy. You know, there are many people that are currently in that venue that, you know, you could place in Team Corbyn in the same way that they would place me in Team Sultana. I actually hope still that from this conference, members will be able to, if I can use the phrase, take back control of the party and actually put members in the driving seat and put an end to this nonsense. You know, there shouldn't be Team Corbyn versus Team Sultana. There should be Team Your Party, or whatever it ends up being called, that is able to build and take the fight to Reform and Labour. It's never been a more urgently needed force in this country, and yet we have people here more intent on causing arguments among ourselves than actually trying to build something willing and able to take the fight to the threat that this country is facing.
Are you concerned that if we find out overnight that there is going to be a single leader of your party rather than a collective leadership, are you concerned that there could be an ugly fallout between Zarah Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, I hope not. I mean, my hope is still that members will vote for a collective leadership. That's my personal preference, and although I'm not allowed in, that's how I'll be voting on my app when the vote comes around. But if it is a sole leader, look, Zarah has said very plainly she will throw her hat into the ring, and indeed, I'm sure Jeremy will too. But I hope that whatever disagreements there are, it can be conducted in a comradely manner, because we owe it to the movement to make sure that we are able to build something that's long-lasting and durable. And we can't afford to have it ruined by petty squabbles.
Just finally, I think sort of on a more uplifting note, is there anything that you would like to be decided or debated this weekend? Any guiding principle that you would like to see part of your party?
Well, look, I actually think that the Democratic Bloc's amendments to the papers are actually pretty much in line where I am. I want a CEC election, which is the equivalent of Labour's NEC. It's the ruling committee of the party. I want that elected as soon as possible. So the sooner that's elected, the better. I want members to be put into the driving seat. I don't want seats on that to be reserved for MPs, for public office holders, because actually I think the last few months have shown that without any member involvement, it's a bloody mess. And so I'm sorry that that's perhaps not as uplifting as it could be, but I do believe genuinely from the people that have come here, from the people that will be voting from the comfort of their homes, that there is a strong enough movement that will be resilient enough to put members in the driving seat so we can start building that party.